CHGO White Sox postgame show, coming to you live from Studio B of our CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up button. Make sure you're subscribing to CHGO Sports. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson alongside me, Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO community leader. Hey, you can lead the whole community.
The whole community. I was out there at the tailgate today.
I don't think that's a job. So, you could walk into your meeting with Brandon, next one you have, and say, hey, as CHGO community leader, and see if he corrects you. Because then you got a new job title.
I'll be like, all the money.
He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. Glad you're joining the fun here. We are coming to you live after a White Sox loss 2-1. The Padres defeat the White Sox, and they sweep them. And the White Sox lose 101 games. Shout out to everyone that has been with us this entire season. I'm not ending the show. But thank you. Ian's in here, Alex in here. I know Fred has been hitting us up, and Fred was, on the dust ball, or what are those called?
What is that?
I don't know what expression.
Tumbleweed.
Okay. Tumbleweed to 100 losses. And after 100 losses, Fred was hitting us up on Twitter. So a very milestone number there, 101 losses. Now I'm thinking of 101 Dalmatians. Maybe there's a graphic to me made there, but
They're black and white. Both of them.
That's true. This is a horrible season.
Just disgusting season. Like, the fact that they lost 101 games is bad. But remember, at the beginning of this year, they were trying to win. They've lost 100 games before recently, and they were trying to lose those games. They were actually saying, okay, we're going to push it all in and try to win this division, and they came up with a 101 loss season. That's an ultimate failure. Like, I know we're, lamenting after the Bears lost today, but what the White Sox have done this year is probably nothing worse the Bears can do this year than what the White Sox did. Like, they're actually trying to compete and then coming up and failing miserably.
It was pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
The Bears loss today might be the worst Bears loss I've seen.
Yes.
This is easily the worst White Sox season I've ever seen. And this is by far the most disappointing White Sox season ever. To put this into perspective, and we're not really going to cover this game because it didn't seem like either teams wanted to play. Mm-hmm. Let's go through this White Sox lineup. That'll tell you how much as we need to tell you. Elvis Andrus led off and played shortstop. Zach Remillard played second base. Andrew Vaughn batted third and played first base. Gavin Sheets batted fourth, was in right field. Yasmani Grandal was the DH, and Corey Lee pinch ran for him. Lenine Sosa was the third baseman, and Tyler Naquin was in left field. Trace Thompson was in center field, and Carlos Perez was catching. Jose Urena started the game. Johan Ramirez relieved him. Crochet relieved him. Shaw relieved Crochet. Davey Garcia relieved Shaw, and Declan Cronin was the last pitcher for the 2023 White Sox. Do you know any of those names, Herb? Grandal.
Yeah, Grandal.
I'm
familiar.
kidding, but
Remillard, maybe he's because the bunching guy.
Elvis Andrus was here last year. Gavin Sheets is never going to leave.
Oh God!
This is not a rousing game of baseball. They needed to play this. This was a formality, and the White Sox lost this formality. But to look at the White Sox and losing 100 in a season, they started playing 162 in 1961. So there were two 100-loss seasons before that. 1948 and 1932, they lost 101. In 1948, they lost 102 in 1932. I don't know if you can really count that. There was 8 teams in the American League. I don't even know if the American League was officially a part of Major League Baseball. Didn't that form? No, I'm sorry. That was 1901. I was reading the thing about the 162-game season, and now I'm confusing stats. The 162-game season started in 1961. The National League adopted that a year later, but at least for the White Sox, since 1961, 2018, they lost 100.
Yep.
2023, they lost 101. 1970, they lost 106. So not the worst, technically, in franchise history, but just an absolutely disgusting season. And the 1969 team went 68 and 94. So not really expectations, right? There wasn't really a thought that, hey, this team could be something. And again, we look back in 2021, they won the division. We look at 2022, we thought, wow, them going 81 and 81 is really abnormal for this team. And this was easily the worst season of baseball that I have ever watched.
Just, it's not aesthetically pleasing, too. And people ask me all the time, like, you're watching baseball after watching that White Sox? Like, yeah, I need to have something to watch all that bad baseball in my brain, so I got to watch other teams that actually perform well to enjoy the game, or else I would just never watch the game anymore because because the White Sox have ruined my eyes for actual good baseball. It's been errors galore, not clutch hitting, dumb managerial decisions by Pedro Grifol, bad development by the team, firing the general manager and executive vice president. A lot of things went badly for this team. I don't know, except for Luis Robert, what is a real bright spot or what is a plus coming out of the 2023 White Sox. He's it for me. Maybe I can't think of a player right now that is like, all right, he had an all right 2023, but expectations on other people were higher than that. And if you say a person like Andrew Vaughn had an all right year, I would say he's close to a replacement level right now because what he does with the bat and the glove as a first baseman is really mediocre.
So I think that there is one person that deserves a shout out, and you look at their career, 2017, 79 games played, 0.5 WAR, 38 games played, and honestly probably going to finish around 0.6 WAR. Bryant Shaw was a bright spot for the Chicago White Sox in 2023. This is a piece for the 2024 bullpen. This is a veteran arm that they can trust, that they can get innings from. They didn't get a ton from him, but what he showed from August to the end of the year, every single day, you could count on Bryant Shaw to be a professional out there, to get you outs, and he said his stuff has never been better. So I'm all aboard the Bryant Shaw train. I don't understand how you see past that. How you see past his 45 innings, how you don't see him as a pinnacle or what's that, a cornerstone of this White Sox franchise is honestly, offensive to me and my baseball acumen. So,
no,
I understand your Luis Robert Jr. excitement, but we know that bullpens win baseball.
Everybody knows that.
Everyone knows that.
And he was so filthy this year, it led him to 101 losses.
I guess Dylan Cease is cheap. Dylan Cease, here we go. Bright spot. Dylan Cease didn't get hurt.
Yeah, he's posted 33 starts. Awesome. Yes. Led the league in starts. Awesome. But other than that, I know you're joking about Bryant Shaw, but also being tongue-in-cheek.
I'm so sincere.
But somebody was asking me in the thing. it might have been Ian, like, can we bring him back for next year? I was like, yeah, if he stays relatively inexpensive, veteran minimum of $700,000, $800,000, go ahead, bring him back, brother.
Let's bring him back. Hey, they got like 13 people to put on this roster. They got 13 maybe spots filled out. We're going to hear about from Gene Watson in a little bit. Vinny got audio and video from Gene Watson. We're going to hear from Liam Hendriks, who likely won't be on the team in 2024. Not sure. Hey, and speak of the devil, Vinnie Duber is joining us. And we also got a preview of Vinnie Duber's exclusive interview with Pedro Grifol that's going to air tomorrow. We got like 30 minutes or so with Vinny and the skipper. So it should be a great time, and I'm excited for the folks to hear that. And hear Pedro maybe in a different light than behind the podium after another loss. You can hear him and Vinny chat, I think, in his office. But we'll ask Vinny in a second. Let's go to the ad break. He said he was going to be late. And see, this guy's always early, always prompt, professional. Let's let you know about Game Time. You can't go to a White Sox game anymore. I'm sorry. You got to find something else to do. Maybe it's a Bears game. The Bulls are coming soon. The Blackhawks are coming soon. There are concerts in this beautiful city all the time.
The theater.
These places need your money. These places need to stay open. Since COVID, not a lot of people are going out to concerts. And Game Time is the way where you don't stress out about getting the tickets, getting in, getting the best price, because Game Time is looking out for you. It's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Again, I heard theaters in Chicago are looking to put on hits, things that have succeeded before. They're playing the hits in 2024 because they're trying to get people in the door. So, go to Game Time and see how to support Chicago theater and music. With
Hamilton's back.
Shit, there you go. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying, too, in that Game Time guarantee that Herb took advantage of down in Atlanta. You'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And then we also want to let you know about our friends over at Splash Sports. If you can't watch the Bears anymore, maybe you could focus in on some contests that we have. CHGO has weekly Pick X and NFL Survivor contests for everyone to participate in for real money. To enter, head to splashsports.com/CHGO. The link is in the description and sign up. Deposit cash to get started, and it's just $10 to enter either. They have the CHGO weekly NFL Pick X contest and the CHGO Survivor contest that's going on. The more people who enter, the larger the prize, and there'll be weekly contests all year long, so be sure to go to that link every week of the NFL. So, next week, I don't know if there's a Monday one just yet, but, week 6, there'll be a contest. And if you want to run your own contest, if you want to be a part of someone else's contest, if you're tired of being in the commission, chasing people down with money with none of the reward, if you're sick of bad commissioners, you can just join a league and have someone run your league properly. Head to splashsports.com/CHGO to join in. We'll have different contests coming soon, and we are stoked to compete with and against you. Be sure to click our link in the description. Again, splashsports.com/CHGO. Okay, let's go out to Vinnie Duber. Vinnie Duber is our CHGO White Sox beat writer. You can follow him at Vinnie Duber. And right before we went to air, Vinnie posted an article at allchgo.com. And Vinnie, I love the Wile E. Coyote references. I love the Looney Tunes part of your article. So go check that out at allchgo.com. We were kind of talking about the disappointment of this season. I know that's what you touched upon in your article. But again, I don't think that there has been a more disappointing season in White Sox history. And we talked about this being the 5th time in franchise history with 100 losses. This is officially the 3rd worst season in franchise history. What else do you want to add?
I mean, that certainly covers a lot of it. I mean, I think if anybody would have told you that this was going to be the outcome at the start of the season, you wouldn't have believed them. I mean, honestly, this team had a ton of question marks in spring training, but this, no way. I mean, I think several of us, multiple of us, I think Herb and I picked them to win the division. I think that was the question. It's, hey, is this team really better than the Guardians? Is this team really better than the Twins? And we'll see. And that was what we thought was going to happen. It couldn't have been worse than last year, right? It couldn't have been at 500. And they just finished the season 40 games under 500. It is just, listen, I tweeted out their number of games below 500, basically the entire last 2/3 of the season. And, because that was the story. The story was, remember last year when that was so disappointing? Well, holy smokes, how disappointing must this be? And listen, it ended in what we thought was unlikely, right? The top guys in the front office losing their jobs. It ended in this team being disassembled a little bit at the trade deadline. And it ends now in us having big questions about what some of the core players of this team, what jerseys they're going to be wearing next season. And so, I mean, this is, to go back to what I wrote about Wile E. Coyote, this is the fall all the way down to the bottom of the canyon and the little that happens at the end there, because it is just shocking that this season was as bad as it was. And certainly it's been so bad basically since the home opener, right? When Michael Kopech gave up 5 home runs to the Giants in the home opener. Like, people have had to sit with this for 6 months, that it's like, it's not surprising anymore, but it should be surprising that this is where this ended up. And it's almost outrageous how bad it ended up being. 101 losses, the 3rd worst season that this 123-year-old franchise has ever had. And that's what came of all the prove it talk in spring training. Ooh boy.
Who boy indeed. And just to look, because Chris Getz mentioned this, and I know he doesn't, maybe I'm not aware of his White Sox historian nature, but he mentioned extreme swings, and this isn't really the first time the White Sox won 80 or more games and then fell under 500 or below under 500, 67 to 68, and I'm just using since 162 game season since 61. In 67, they won 89 games. In 68, they fell to 67 losses. In 77, they won 90 games. In 78, they fell to 71 losses. In 83, they won 99 games. And then 84, they fell to 74 losses. And then 2006, they won 90. And then 2007, they fell to 72. Again, I know that's been a disappointing year that's been brought up before. 2012, 85 wins, and then 2013, 63 wins, and then obviously 2022, 81 wins, and only 61 wins in 2023. So I guess by differential, like the team in, 67 to 68, they lost 22 more games the next year. So, I mean, they only lost 20 more games, I guess. Like it was a 20-win difference. So maybe it's not the most disappointing.
Nice try. Nice try there. Nice try. But seriously, this is a team where the optimism is in short supply among the fan base for good reason, right? Because basically you can go around this entire diamond, up and down the lineup, throughout the pitching staff. You have very few people to point to provide even hope that those individuals are going to provide something better next season, right? Obviously, Luis Robert Jr. was excellent, right? Maybe you want to point to the great finish that Dylan Cease had, and that he kind of found himself, and that guy is still in there, right? And maybe you're even enticed by the last month and a half here that Yoán Moncada showed, but everywhere else, I mean, do we have any reason to expect something big from Eloy Jimenez? Do we have any reason to expect something big from Andrew Vaughn? Maybe a little, but again, average, right? If you look at the numbers, they're average major league. Do you have any reason to expect something big from Andrew Benintendi? Pedro Grifol thinks so, and maybe, the track record is the thing to point at. But there needs to be so much done to this team, either this offseason or over the coming off seasons, plural, to get them to a point where I think you would be confident in doing what we did at the beginning of this season, which was picking them to win the division.
Pedro Grifol just finished his first season, and rumors and thoughts are he's going to be coming back for his second season. Did he ever express any, relief or joy or, man, that was a tough season and it can't get any worse than that? Because his first season started with 101 losses, and he gets a chance to come back. So what were his thoughts after his first season ended today?
Yeah, not a lot of positive thoughts from Pedro Grifol in the wake of this season. I mean, I understand what you're saying there, right? The silver lining that there's nowhere to go but up, I suppose. But I don't think he really looks at it that way. I think he looks at it in terms of, for lack of a better term, knowing, I guess the word would be believing, right, that they're going to be much better next year. I don't know if that will end up being the case, certainly, but I think that's what he is working with. I think the words he's been using at the end of the season here have painted the picture of someone who probably had it, emotionally at least, harder than anybody that was watching this team on a regular basis. A guy who kind of had to learn to stop taking the losses so hard and as they piled up, right? A guy who is using the word embarrassed at the end of the year, a guy who's taking the blame for what happened. And certainly, listen, when you're the manager of a team that loses 101 games, you're going to get blamed. That's how this job works. So, I don't think he's happy or positive in any way about what happened, other than the fact that he thinks the future is bright, right? And so I don't think he's up there with a big smile on his face saying, oh, just wait till next year kind of thing. This will all be ancient history. But I think he does have a belief that the work that they're going to do, whether it's him and his coaching staff, which might not be 100% intact coming back. We can talk about that a little bit, or specifically the front office and the new faces at the top of it, the work that they're going to do this winter.
And just a side, do the players clear out their lockers today? Do they come back tomorrow for an exit interview or something like that? What's the gist of what goes on after a season ends?
Yeah, it looks like basically a slow-moving road trip, if that makes any sense, because at the end of a homestand, when they're about to get on the road, they've got to pack all their bags, and they're all out on the floor in front of everybody's locker, and they throw their stuff in there, and then that goes on the truck. This is, obviously, they don't have anywhere to be tomorrow but home, and so they're taking their time. They're saying their goodbyes to people for the off-season, but it's that same kind of packing kind of mentality with everything kind of strewn about the clubhouse. So this is it's the end, no doubt about that.
Let's follow up on that, Chris. I was going to say Chris Getz, Pedro Grifol comment though, because Chris Getz had the comment that the coaching staff might change. Who had that?
Grifol, right?
So we asked Chris about it. I believe that was Tuesday when he spoke, and he said that those decisions had not been finalized yet, kind of thing. Very much the same answer he gave to a lot of questions that we had about the offseason. Pedro today was asked about it, and the words he used hinted a little bit more strongly that there would be changes. He basically said he was asked, have you guys made those decisions on the coaching staff? And his words were, there are some new ideas that we've got. I don't want to share them right now. He talked about how tough a time it is of year for guys on coaching staffs across the league. And certainly, they're part of those, what I was talking about earlier, guys who take the blame with seasons as bad as this one or significantly better, but still not up to snuff across Major League Baseball. But he was just talking about how there were things that are being talked about that he was not ready to share yet. Kind of like I would say, it certainly sounded strongly hinting that there would perhaps be a change or maybe multiple ones for this coaching staff between now and when that has to be decided on.
And again, using our context clues because we're all smart men, we understand that maybe Ethan Katz might not be the one who's fired because Brian Bannister has talked a lot about him and has talked about them going to dinner. So maybe it's not Ethan Katz who's gone, and they just hired a lot of the hitting staff, and we look to the bench manager, and it seems like Charlie Montoyo and Pedro Grifol was an arranged marriage of sorts. I don't know what changes are going to be made. We're obviously going to be, looking out for that. But my guess is it's Charlie Montoyo. I don't know if you think it's going to be more than that. I don't know if you think it's not going to be Montoyo.
I don't know what a bench coach does, so I really don't. I mean, I know he gives counsel to the manager. He's a veteran voice in the clubhouse for a person who had never been in that position for Pedro Grifol. But if I had my druthers, the guy I want out, Daryl Boston. I mean, what do you do around here? Just bye. It's been real.
And maybe that's another guy, too. I mean, maybe that's, maybe those are the multiple changes. It's Charlie and Daryl.
That'll be great.
I'd be all for it.
Bad for Charlie because I don't think he did anything bad, but Daryl has been aching to get the hell out of the White Sox clubhouse.
Absolutely. And thanks to Courtney for the super chat. Great coverage all season long, guys. We appreciate that. Jared Willis also had a post from Saturday. So make sure you're following Jared at J Willis, Y's instead of I's. So WYLLYS at J Willis. Make sure to follow Vinnie Duber at Vinnie Duber. He's got a brand new piece up. We're going to get to a Pedro tease. We're going to learn more about Pedro tomorrow in Vinnie's 30-plus chat with Pedro. So make sure you're covering Vinny. He's been covering you White Sox fans with all the great, maybe not great, but the sights and sounds of the 2023 season.
Hey, whether you like them or not, they happen. Whether you like them or not, it all happens. And so I'm here to tell you what's going on.
All right. So let's take another ad break, and then let's get into our video. We have video from Gene Watson and Liam Hendriks, and then we'll get into the Pedro tease. But again, make sure to follow our great writers, Jared and mainly Vinny, covering the White Sox beat for all you. And tomorrow is going to be an off-day show. It's going to start all of our off-day shows, and I'm pretty sure for the month of October, we're going to be at 3:30. I think I teased 10:30, but we've had some changes, so it's now going to be 3:30, and we're excited to bring you White Sox coverage all throughout 2023 offseason.
Mark your calendars, folks.
Mark your calendars and go to Foco.com. Foco is our friends, and they've donated some lovely set decorations. Will Tim Anderson be a White Sox? Let's ask the bobblehead.
Yes.
Okay, he's very quiet today. I guess he didn't want to speak today. Set decorations have been donated by Foco, so go check them out at foco.com or click the link in the description below. They got Aloha shirts, straw hats, polos, bags for football games that you're going to, Blackhawks games that you're going to, Bulls games that you're going to get you all decked out in fandom, get fitted in the best sports gear around. They got hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. So if you got a great man cave, maybe a great garage that you're proud of, maybe a woman in cave, go check out foco.com, foco.com, or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off. Also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray CDJR. Just wanted to make sure. That's Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Are you in the market for a new vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you. Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram in Fox Lake have just joined the CHGO team. At Ray CDJR, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest inventories and find unforgettable savings. And right now, during Jeep Adventure Days at Ray CDJR in Fox Lake, you'll be able to take up to 15% off MSRP on all new 2023 Jeep Gladiator models. And that's not it. Now through September 30th, which I guess is over. Explore their newly renovated. The showroom's still there. Explore their newly renovated showroom now and take advantage of the breathtaking deals as they celebrate their grand reopening. So if you are in the market for a new vehicle, you have to check out the team at Ray Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram because they are the only team we recommend. Visit them today on Route 12 in Fox Lake. For more information, visit Ray CDJR in Fox Lake or raycdjr.com today. Serving the community since 1963. I know that ad read says through September 30th, but they have had great deals in August and September. So I'm sure that Ray and their team will always find the best price for you. They have the Ray Price Promise over at Chevy, and I'm pretty sure that they're always trying to find the best deal for all their customers over at Ray CDGR as well through October. Final ad here. Want to let you know about our friends over at Fubo. They have 140 live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. You could stream live TV from any device. You can watch the most Chicago sports for the lowest price with our friends over at Fubo. I always do that. And you can start watching immediately with a free trial. You can go watch Shark Tank with Damon John. There's no contract, no cable, and no hassle. Just sign up and start watching. They have 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra charge, and you can watch local teams while traveling. And there's NFL if you want to subject yourself to torture. Connor Bedard, I think, is playing on TV tonight for NHL preseason. They got the Bulls coming up. And
hockey guy Steven said yes.
Yeah, I do concur.
Nice, he concurs. So watch all your favorite Chicago football and NFL with Fubo. And too, you could have watched all that crazy Ryder Cup action with Fubo as well. Visit www.fubotv.com/CHGO. That's fubotv.com/CHGO to sign up for 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. All right.
I got what you did. Damon John, that was a good catch.
Thank you.
And then James, I met at the tailgate today. He says hello. He says he usually watches CHGO bets. He said he's going to watch us today, but he told me to tell you say hello.
I thought I was going to be able to make it out, and I honestly thought of James Orlando last night, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to make it, and I felt bad. And honestly, I gotta meet up with him because
I think he had a good time.
Always in CHGO bets.
Yeah,
he was my home run parlay guy. So I started making home run parlays because of James Orlando. He's a legend. All right, let's go to some video. Again, Vinnie Duber has been killing it. He's been getting a lot of great video and audio over the past year for 2023. Also in September. But let's go out to Gene Watson. We talked about building the 2024 team, and he has prior experience with Brian Bannister, Chris Getz, Pedro Grifol. So here is Gene Watson on what he is going to bring to the White Sox this offseason.
Just turning over every rock to find the best players that we can. I'm coming from Kansas City, where I was the vice president, general manager, assistant GM of Major League Scouting, and so coming over here, it's going to be working over the pro scouting department and trying to find the best players that we can and help this team win.
That might be kind of tough from sitting, when you're watching with Kansas City, but you talked about the talent, and everyone's talked about that since this rebuild got going to full force, the window open. Could you see this team maybe miss a little cohesiveness from across the way, the White Sox?
Not really. This game's not easy. It's a hard game, and the talent is here. The expectations are going to drive the results, and we want to win, and we're not going to put a timetable on it. And so we're looking forward to going to work, rolling our sleeves up, and going to work.
And there is Gene Watson, new director of pro scouting is the official?
Director of player personnel.
Director of player personnel. Thank you. And the one thing that jumped out to me was just, finding those fringe guys, finding those players that you can develop. And you brought up, Vinny, when you joined, can you expect big seasons from Vaughn or Benintendi or Aloy? But what seems to be the focus, I think, of this team is they already have the top guys in place. So let's make sure rosters spots 10 through 26 are as best as they can be. And that's what the Brian Bannister signing is signaling to me. It seems like the Josh Barfield signing is similar, trying to turn those quad A guys into major leaguers and the Gene Watson thing. Again, that's what Kansas City is doing. They're trying to find those guys that can play 140 to 162 games and give you just consistent play all throughout the season. So I see the vision for the White Sox. I just don't know if it's a World Series vision. It does seem like, if best, we're going to win the Central, because, again, the team that's with the worst record that's getting into the playoffs this year is the American League Central winner, the 87-win Twins. So it does seem like a feasible goal with the elephant in the room being the AL Central. So I don't know. It seems like the direction for the White Sox in 2024 is taking a little bit more shape with Gene Watson, Barfield, and Bannister. I don't know if you make the same idea here, Vin.
Well, I think the point that you brought up is certainly a good one. I think really what needs to happen in order for an organization to be successful is they need to succeed on all those fronts, right? And so, you bring up, the top guys are in place, they just need to kind of supplement that. I think that was kind of the idea under Rick Hahn the last few years, right? Is that, hey, all these guys that we've brought up through these trades that we made and these draft picks that we've made, those are the guys that are going to power this thing. Excuse me. The Roberts, the Aloys, the Moncadas, the TAs, the Vaughns, and then they go out, they sign Grandal to add to that. They sign a guy like Keuchel or go get Lance Lynn to add to that group that they already had in place. Well, that doesn't work when those guys don't perform, be it because they're not on the field or because they're underachieving. So the Chris Getz in this new front office, yeah, absolutely, they need to go out and find these guys who they can turn into something better than they were when they signed, right? They need to go keep making those to do something that White Sox fans are familiar with. Johnny Cueto acquisitions, right? And turn a guy who might be done, as we heard Brian Bannister talk about the other day, a guy coming off a bad year or a guy who's lost himself, turn them back into the guy that they used to be. But also, this team needs you need a core. You want to stop hearing about the word core because it's defined by disappointment here the last few years with the White Sox, but a team needs that. And so even if it doesn't look the same as it does right now, you're going to need a bunch of really good players to power this thing who aren't just guys that you picked up off the scrap heap and hope to turn into something better. Now, they've got that in Luis Robert Jr., obviously. And listen, we've talked about how some of these guys aren't going anywhere. The thing that jumped out to me about what Gene Watson was saying was he kind of officially said what nobody else had said to that point, which was, we're not putting a timetable on it. And, again, I know we probably focus a lot more than they do on, well, what does this mean for the immediate next season? What does this mean for 2025 and 2026? Give us the play-by-play of how this is supposed to go. And it probably doesn't work that way because you need to know whether you hit on what you were trying to do in the winter or not. But when they say we're not putting a timetable on it, it makes me think that we could be sitting here in March and be saying, and be having some pretty low expectations for what this team is going to do, not necessarily by design like you would with a rebuild, right? But, we didn't get all the things we wanted checked off. This team lost 101 games next year. How much can we really do in just one offseason? Maybe 2025 just makes more sense. I'm not saying anybody should be settling for that. This is a team that has the resources and should have the ability with the players that they already have to be better and compete for a division title in the worst division in baseball, as you pointed it out. So nobody should be settling for that, absolutely. And that includes the guys in the front office, and I'm sure they're not settling for that. But I can see that the road leading that way, if that makes sense. And so I think that them having the expectation of we're going to do what we want to do to turn this team into a contender, period. Not by opening day 2024 or by opening day 2025, but just period. And considering the mandate that Chris Getz has from Jerry Reinsdorf to do it as quickly as he possibly can, I think that they're going to get to work trying to get that done in one off season. But as we know, that seems like it might not be the most realistic expectation.
And it's feels like what Gene was saying and what you were saying, Sean, is that when you have a person like Tim go out, you don't fall off the table to Hans or Roberto. And then Yohan goes out. That's an inevitability. It's not Zach Remillard. It's
Jake Berger.
Replacement level or above. Like when we have troubles on our main stage and our core people, which we have had happen, and there's nothing we can do. They're coming back. So if they're smart, and I would think that Gene Watson would speak to this, when these people get hurt, it's going to happen. We need better people who are going to be in there replacing those players. So we need to go out and find people who can give you a 2 WAR cumulatively over a course of a season when they're playing, and just not to put a body out there and, oh, this guy can't play. Oh, man, we're losing games because we have our pitcher out here who's, pitched only past AAA and he wasn't good there type of stuff. So I hope they are fixing the floor and not just the ceiling. Like, the floor needs to be steady and solid. And if they can get that together, the AL Central, it's not that great. And I think Jerry Reinsdorf looks back to the 2005 team because they had injuries there. But once they had closer injury, Dustin Hermanson goes out, Shingo Takatsu comes out, you get Bobby Jenks, etc. Frank Thomas goes out, Carl Everett steps up. And he still does a masterful job. You have career years by Polite. You have career years by Neil Kotz. That type of floor you need. Then, if your team, other players, like that year, their other players played at the highest level they've ever played at, a 90 percentile year, then you win the World Series. All the White Sox need to do, if that is the case, with all the bottom people just doing their jobs and doing at a good replacement level, then you just have to have your stars stay healthy. And when they do stay healthy, perform like Yoan's been doing as of late, like Luis has done the whole damn year. And then all those guys, Andrew Vaughn, who's been doing that lately, you need that to sustain throughout the year. Then you can get 87 wins and win like the Twins, because they've had a bunch of injuries. We talked about that. Correa's been out, Buxton's been out, but the people who's come on, Julian and Royce Lewis, they stepped up big time.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the Rays too. I mean, they've had so many people fall out.
Oh, yeah.
They're heading into the playoffs, just a battered baseball team, and we'll see how they turn out. I mean,
they don't have a one. It's gonna be tough.
They might have enough pitching to just get through it. I mean, that's what you need to shut down the Braves. Okay, and Jared mentions why. Can we talk about Gene Watson? Why him? I think it's very clear. And you guys want to jump in or chime in? Let me know. He knows Chris Getz. He knows Brian Bannister. He knows Pedro Grifol. It just seems like it's obviously he's an accomplished person. He has a resume in Major League Baseball, but it does seem like Pedro Grifol, Chris Getz, and Gene Watson have a vision for at least what the team behind the stars looks like, right? I think they have an idea of what type of players they need to fill out the rest of this roster, and that seems to be what their job in 2023 or this 2023 offseason will be. I mean, I know it's very easy to go to the past connections, but I mean, I think the second question he was asked, he's like, well, I traded for Chris and then I traded for Brian Bannister in 2006. So it's like, it does seem like he's very friendly with these people, and this past relationship does lead to a common goal. So I think there's a lot of trust that has been built up, at least with these people, at least those four.
Yeah, how you said it right there makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, why wouldn't you, if there was a guy with that resume, with those accomplishments, that you also happen to have a really good relationship with and that you trust and want to and feel that you're going to work well with, isn't that exactly what you would do? I mean, Gene Watson was telling us some of his history. He's been a part of the front office of teams that have gone to 4 different World Series. That's good. And I don't think you need necessarily. I mean, come on. What do we really know about how these front office guys are working on a daily basis, right? We can only look at they were here during these years and the team did this success this year. If you're gonna think that Josh Barfield and Brian Bannister were good hires, but Gene Watson is not, why? Right? I mean, because you're just looking at the resumes. Yeah, those guys have had success. Well, Gene Watson's had more. He's been in the game a lot longer, right? I mean, so you're talking about a guy who has had certainly among the most rave reviews that from the people who are already here, meaning Chris Getz and Pedro Grifol, and yes, guys he knows and has relationships with, but than anybody else. So I think that that's something that really can only benefit this team. I mean, here's what folks wanted. Folks wanted outside ideas, outside perspectives, and ways of doing things that weren't the way the White Sox have done them for the last, 25 years almost under Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, or the combination thereof. That's what Chris Getz gave, not in his own hire, not in Jerry Reinsdorf hiring him, but that's what he has done in bringing these 3 guys in. And so probably more, maybe not as high profile, but more hires throughout the front office on these guys as individual, working under these individual guys and in their departments. So this is certainly not what fans wanted in terms of Chris Getz being the guy at the top, but he has delivered what fans wanted in terms of bringing people who have worked for and with a lot of different organizations and have soaked up the way that different organizations do things and are bringing different non-White Sox ways of doing things to the White Sox, which is only going to, I think, help Chris and anybody else who's been here for a while realize that there are different ways of doing things and provide other ideas and input.
I'm going to put myself on record to say that I don't think this is going to work, but I'm very interested to see what Chris Getz and his people he has hired are going to do, because it is non-White Sox. It is an exciting time for a team that has lost 101 games and has a whole rebuild to do, even though they're not calling it a rebuild at all. It's a rebuild. Brian Bannister won't put a time on it. Gene Watson won't put a time on it. Jerry wants to win quickly. We all know it's not going to win quickly. I'm just skeptical because of the new general manager. But the three people he's hired so far give me a little hope that they kind of have a plan going forward. The fact that they hired him before the season ended tells me they already had him vetted. Chris is the first thing he said, give me this, that, and the other. I want these three guys before other people get to hire these people. Now, are they going to be good? Time will tell, but I'm excited to see what they're going to do, and I will criticize them harshly if it fails and give them praise if it goes well, because this is a whole new day in White Sox baseball. I'm not saying for you, the fan who are listening, to be excited, but I am feeling a little bit more excited if it was just going to be a Kenny and Rick thing, and they're going to try to get it back. I still think that having a guy who's never done the job is foolhardy, but I'm looking forward to this all season.
The AL Central is so bad.
Yes.
So I can sit here right now in 2023 and look at you and say the 2024 White Sox have a chance to win the AL Central. Will it happen? I have no idea. I did not expect this team to win, 61 games. I had them predicted to win 83. Here we are. So, I don't know what to expect. I have no choice but to give them a chance, and I think it's not all bad.
Okay.
It's not how I would run this, but I like the Brian Bannister hire. I like the Josh Barfield hire. Those two, I think, are positive things. But, we bring up, Pedro. Pedro would not be the manager I would have. And then
Correct.
You see Gabe Kapler leaving. You see the possibility of Counsell maybe stepping away, so he might not be an option. Bob Melvin possibly being fired, as Joel Sherman is, or at least brought up, is expected to happen. Of course, I would go out and get one of those managers. I don't think Pedro would be the guy I would have hired this offseason, but here we are. Again, I can't control these things. I'm on this ride no matter what. As Steve Stone said, enjoy it. So we'll see. Let's go to one of the parts that was awful about this ride in 2023. Liam Hendriks, horrible news in the offseason that he was diagnosed with cancer. Great story where he ends up beating cancer, becoming cancer-free, was pitching during his chemotherapy, and then made the return to the White Sox. And then, unfortunately, after 6 appearances, was shut down for the year. And then later, we heard that he had Tommy John surgery. So let's hear Liam on his recovery, and then also about his expectation for what the White Sox will do with his option.
Probably less pain in my elbow than I did before the surgery, so that's always nice. And then, just trying to figure out, get the rest of that range of motion back, and here we are.
How different is it going to be? Because it sounds like you pitched with that. It doesn't sound like it. You told us you pitched with it for a while.
Yeah, it'll
just
be
to have pain-free.
It'll be interesting. It's probably going to be a little unnerving, to be honest. Not having that constant kind of vibe in there, but we'll see how it goes. That's obviously a long way from now. I think I start throwing around February or so. Right. And from there we'll take it as it goes and see where I end up and what's going to happen there.
Happy to be without the brace, at least?
Yeah, the brace is annoying. It wasn't as much the day-to-day stuff. It was sleeping and accidentally hitting my wife with the brace. Yeah, that's theoretically the most dangerous time because if you roll over and do that way. It was nice to get out of the brace because not only the brace but the arm sleeve underneath, and it just gets hot in bed, and then accidentally hitting a dog or my wife with the brace is not ideal.
You've been one in the past that's kind of pushed through things, right?
Yeah.
But with this, you said before you're going to take all the proper steps in terms of coming back, or are you going to?
No, we're still going to push it. No, I mean, that's just who I am, and I don't think I need to. I don't necessarily want to get into a position mentally where I'm okay with delaying things. It's going to be a constant push to try and, this is my goal, I want to beat that goal. Also doing it in a smart way, but we'll see how it goes. Like, obviously been going through the stuff here with the training staff here over the last couple months, and we'll see where it goes in the off season until November 14th or something like that. I'm allowed to go to the White Sox place. So we'll see what happens as far as anything else goes. But yeah, it's just a matter of going through the steps, and I've got the game plan written out from the surgeon so Dr. Meister in Texas, and I've already tried to trim some fat off the throwing program a little bit, but we'll see how that goes.
Have you talked at all with Chris? I mean, is that even in Chris got some time?
Other than yelling at him as he walks past, not so much. I know he's been meeting with some guys, but I haven't got that call yet. But it's got a lot going on. There's a lot of balls moving, and first foray into that kind of position. It's we'll see what shakes, but there's a lot going on there, and I'm not exactly anticipating too much.
How much would you like to be back here?
Well, I'd love to be back. As I said, I have unfinished business here. Like, I signed here to win here. I think there's a good core group that still has an opportunity to win. There's some definite avenues where we can improve, but I signed here to win here, and that's the goal right now.
I mean, I would hate to see him not in a White Sox uniform. I hope they can figure something out. It doesn't seem like Chris Getz has talked to Liam Hendriks. Well, he hasn't talked to him yet, so we're not sure what the decision will be. The two options are either buy out the rest of his contract for $15 million, and he will not be a part of the White Sox in 2024. Or sorry, you can either pay him the full $15 million. You could pay him for the next 15 years, $1 million for the next 15 years, or you can accept the contract and he'll be a White Sox. What do we expect? Herb, you want to start us off? I mean, do you expect there to be a buyout of $15 million of some sort, or do you expect him to be with the team?
Yeah, I expect there to be a buyout with the White Sox, and not necessarily that being the end of the chapter, but I 100% expect the White Sox to get out of that contract, pay him the $15 million over the several years, and just, not tie themselves to that salary for next year. And I wouldn't say that is the wrong move. I think it is the prudent business move. Now, if you can find a way where you can have him on your team with, veteran minimum, whatever, cool. Because he pretty much won't be signed by anybody else in the offseason because of the Tommy John surgery he just had, and he probably won't be pitching, if at all, until the end of the year. So find a way where he can get in the building and keep his insurance, and so he can go to chemotherapy if he needs to. I mean, I know he beat cancer, but, it's a tough thing. You keep that on at bay and keep on rehabilitating his arm. Because eventually he wants to pitch again. So I would want to curry some favor with him and say, hey, man, can't give you that whole 15 because that'll just be wasted because you ain't pitching, but we can give you this, that, and the other. Are you cool with that? And we're paying you $15 million eventually. So you're good, man. Can we just give you this $1 million, though, just to chill out and do nothing? And $1 million shouldn't cripple the White Sox, and it should do well for the clubhouse, too. I think that is one of the problems of why the White Sox got off to such a poor start. You don't have a certified closer at the back end of your bullpen, and then the person that Liam Hendriks is, it's going to be tough. And you get out to 7-21 starts because the person's not back there to close it out. We saw Ronaldo Lopez struggle mightily early in his White Sox closing career.
Much of what Herb said, yeah, I would agree with. I think much like how the conversation around Tim Anderson has changed maybe in recent weeks with Chris Getz speaking in a more ambiguous tone about it, makes you think, maybe it's not that slam dunk that we thought it maybe should have been. Kind of thinks maybe that, makes you think the same way about Liam Hendriks. I think the cold-hearted number on the spreadsheet thing is to do the buyout so you have an extra $13.5 million to work with, right, if you're Chris Getz in the White Sox front office. That being said, I would think that the interest in Liam Hendriks would be pretty high if he were to go to free agency. We talked in the past about teams who have done that, sign a guy to a cheap 2-year deal where, yeah, we don't expect you to play for us in the first year, but we want you to rehab, and then by year 2, not only are we getting healthy version of you, but we're getting it at a bargain too. And I would think that a lot of teams would be interested in doing that with Liam Hendriks, not just for that reason, but because it's Liam Hendriks. You might get him for the last month and a half of next season. And if you're going to the playoffs, maybe you get him for a postseason run. I would think the White Sox would be interested in something like that. But when you throw the price tag in of if they're going to get that next year, it would cost them $15 million as part of their budget. That's where it gets complicated. I would think they would want him to be a part of things. He's great in the clubhouse. He's a tremendous, tremendous all-star caliber closer at the back end of the bullpen. But if you let him go to the free market, I don't know if you guarantee that he'd be coming back here.
Absolutely. And I saw some discourse online that's kind of making me think of this conversation. It's, people buying a ticket to a movie and then walking out, and people are like, well, I paid money, and I've already devoted time, so why would I walk out? Even if it's a bad movie, I'm going to sit through it. I think the White Sox paid for the Liam Hendriks movie, and I would like to see the ending of it, and I don't think that 2023 was the proper ending for him. You're already paying him $15 million next year no matter what. So can you work out?
But not next year. But not next year. That's the thing, right? Is that your budget for next year, if you pick up the option, includes $15 million of Liam Hendriks. Your budget for next year, if you don't, includes $1.5 million of Liam Hendriks. And it's a big difference.
Right, but I'm saying why don't the White Sox be that 2-year team where you already have this year, figure out a thing where maybe you buy him out for 15 and then you sign him to the lowest amount possible for 2024 and then work out a deal for 2025, right? I'm saying why don't the White Sox be that team to give him that 2-year deal? I would be all for that and be super supportive, because that $15 million, whether it's on the budget or not, is going to be going to Liam Hendriks no matter what. So I say get creative with it.
Yeah, I think that would be a phenomenal idea from the White Sox standpoint. The point that I was making is they're not going to be the only team out there to be thinking that way. And does the price get driven up for that quote-unquote 2-year deal to a point where the White Sox are like, well, we have to allocate stuff elsewhere, and we're just getting outbid by another team who would pay more to have that experience?
But can't they just negotiate? They have the team option, so they can negotiate them with before any other team jumps in, right? So I'm just saying, get her done.
Well, I don't know if that. I don't know if that's true. But because here's the thing, he's going to free agency. If they decline the option, he's a free agent. 30 teams can sign him. Right.
No, I'm saying either. I guess I'm saying. Okay.
Go to him before you cut him.
Right. Or you can't say you can't work out a deal with him where it's we'll decline the option, but we'll have a deal where you'll sign for free agency. I understand your point. Once he hits the free agent market, teams might pay for him, but maybe you do have, I guess, in my mind right now, exclusive negotiation rights in a way.
But here's the thing. Why would you agree to that if you're Liam and you think you can get more of it from another team? You know what I mean? Why would you lock yourself into signing with the White Sox on a minute after free agent starts when there's a 2, 3, 4, 5 teams lining up behind you saying, well, we'll just give you more for that exact same deal.
Right. But like he said, he's him and Jerry, or you talk to Jerry and he has the home in Arizona, right? So he knows that stuff is close to the Sox, or he knows that right now he lives close to both the Sox in Chicago and Arizona. I think that's what he talked about to you guys about a month ago or so when he had the meeting with Jerry. So, I think that there has been enough vocalness from Liam to at least be, in my side, to be advocating for it. That's why I think that there is a possibility, because again, 2024, he's not going to be pitching. So if it's the easiest for him to have a team have a spring training complex and an off-season complex in Arizona, maybe the Sox have enough that check boxes for him, at least for his recovery in 2024.
And I would just say one more thing too. Liam Hendriks is not your typical baseball player, in a good way. And when you talk about when we talk about free agents, we're talking about one thing and one thing only. We're talking about money. But Liam Hendriks is not necessarily that kind of person, and he has built a very strong relationship with this organization. They have not only helped him through this impossible to imagine hard time in his life, but they've helped him do the things that he wants to do to be the kind of person that he wants to be, not just the kind of baseball player that he wants to be. And so certainly that, I think, factors into his mind, but let's also not pretend like the White Sox are the only team out there and the only team out there that would be willing to do something like that and be willing to have that kind of relationship with him. because he's an all-star talent, and not only that, he's an all-star dude. And I think if I'm the Diamondbacks or the Mets or the Rays or whoever, and I want to throw, and I'm going to say, well, I'll give as much money as this guy as possible, and we're going to do all that awesome stuff that he likes to do with charitable efforts and helping him be a good dude and reach out to the community. Of course, we're going to do that because that makes total sense. So the White Sox have done a great job with that and with him on that front, and I do think that is worth something. But also, any team should be willing to do that, especially if it means getting a guy like that at the back end of the bullpen.
And let's not forget that Jerry Reinsdorf, while you might have thoughts about Jerry Reinsdorf that are not positive, sometimes he comes up and steps up to the plate when he doesn't need to. I'm reminded of Jay Williams' incident back here in Chicago, where he was riding a motorcycle, got in an accident, and pretty much ruined his whole basketball career. Jerry Reinsdorf did not need to pay that contract of rookie Jay Williams for the remainder of the money. He did. He breached his contract, and Jerry Reinsdorf still said, hey, here's your money, man. Enjoy yourself. And Liam Hendriks has gone to Jerry Reinsdorf and asked him to be on the team and to have the $15 million contract for next year and pleaded to him. And so I wouldn't put it past Jerry Reinsdorf, even though you have him and some people have him in miserly ways. He has a heart. He has a conscience, and he probably has been talked to by Liam Hendriks. And how can you reject Liam Hendriks after he does a personal plea to you? And maybe Jerry's feeling like, hey, man, $15 million is a drop in the bucket. We're going to be paying him anyways. Might as well just give it to him all right now. And, he gets to keep his health insurance. He gets to be in the same facility. You don't have to worry about all the stuff that if we were to release him, he would have to worry about. Let's keep him here. So I could see that as a Hail Mary, not what I'm thinking is going to happen. But if that were to happen, I would be like, Jerry Reinsdorf comes through again in that scenario.
I would hope that does happen, but we'll just have to wait and see. Again, obviously no conversation has been had with Chris Getz and Liam Hendriks just yet. Before we get to Pedro, I guess the one player that a decision needs to be made on is Tim Anderson. We've talked about it a lot. I don't know if there's much to add to the discussion, but I am left kind of with the same feeling as last year when Jose Abreu didn't play in his last game, and I understand that this is just a different scenario. They're out of the playoffs by so many games, 100 losses already, but there weren't any parting words from what I understand from Tim Anderson, so I don't know. I feel like this is kind of going to play out like Tim or Jose did, a little bit differently because they didn't have a player option, right, or team option, but I do think that it's likely that they decline the option just with the way that things played out. That's my opinion. I don't know if I would do that, but we can obviously talk about this all off season. But where do you guys stand now? Do you think they will pick the option? Not if you think they should, but do you think they will?
I think they will because it gives them more options to trade them if they do not want them on the team. And I think somebody will give them maybe not what they want, but something that can be useful. And I think also, even if they are not thinking about him not being on the team, they can say, all right, last year with Tim, he's got to go out and make his money for his next contract. So we probably see him as a guy who's going to be changed and going to be much better for us next year. If we have a chance to trade him at halftime at the trade deadline, so be it. If we're not good, and get somebody who wants to have Tim Anderson on the team and then get more value back from him.
I was talking earlier about timeline, and I think that this makes a lot of sense in that I don't think they know all that they're going to be able to get done this winter. And one thing that they know they can do is keep Tim Anderson around in case they get enough done where having him on the team makes them a contender or a competitive team. Whereas if they don't get what they want to get done this winter and they see themselves in a losing situation, then they can do exactly what Herb said and trade him. We talked about a smart play from a money standpoint, right? The cold number on the spreadsheet when it came to Liam Hendriks. Why would you, quote, you wouldn't pay $15 million maybe for a guy who's not going to be available to you. It might not be smart from a budget standpoint. Tim Anderson, if he can be Tim Anderson, is a value at $14 million. And so that, from a numbers standpoint, would seem to me to be the easy pickup in terms of them being able to turn it into a contending caliber team. But we'll see where that goes. I think the fact that you have to make that decision early probably pushes it more to a yes. If they had till February to pick up the option, maybe they'd sit on their hands and just be like, well, we'll see where we are in February. But if you can count him as part of this roster now, you can then at least plan a little bit better. And once you know what you have come February or come March, then you can make a decision on maybe what you want to do with Tim Anderson at that point.
And we do have an exclusive interview with Pedro Grifol and Vinnie Duber that's airing tomorrow. We debated on whether the TA clip or this clip from Pedro on, how 2023 went from his expectations when he was hired. But the TA stuff is really good. Vinny, we've been bugging you. Hey, why isn't Pedro going as hard on TA as he was with Oscar Colas? You guys went into it and pretty in depth. So it's really a great interview to listen to. It's very casual, and I thought that it made Pedro seem a little bit more normal. And probably after you do 100 press conferences, both before and after the game, probably gets tough to repeat. Yeah, we lost again. Yeah, we lost again. So this is a better interview, I think, to get a sense of who Pedro is. And since he's likely going to be here in 2024, you get to know a guy that's going to be a part of this team for next year. But we do have a little teaser for you, and this is Pedro Grifol on how 2023 turned out compared to his expectations of when he was hired back in October, November.
Our guys were hurt, and we spoke prior to, whatever it is, your percent that you're available at today, that's what I want you to give me. And those are things that I'm not going to talk on that. I'm not going to go on the record on that, after a game or prior to a game and just say so-and-so can't give me this because he's nicked up. And that happened a ton. More than what I've ever envisioned or ever been a part of. But these guys are talented, so I want them in the lineup, and I chose. And I you can go back. I said this over and over again. I choose the bat over the legs. I'm not expecting so-and-so to run. I'm not expecting, because I choose the bat over the legs. If I didn't, then I wouldn't play him. So that happened a lot. Like I said, this is not an excuse. Injuries played a big part of that. And then there was some lapses, too. There were some lapses of just lack of focus. And, but I'm to blame for that because I'm the one that's got to fix that, and address that. So I've never hid from that. All I know is that we're fixing it. Was it a lot? More than what I would want, but not as much as the perception is. I think the perception has been steadily increasing over the years, and it's magnified. And I don't compare ourselves to any other club or anything like that, but it's kind of the way of the game a little bit, but it's not the way we envision our game. So it's not. I don't know if I'm saying it right. I'm not comparing myself to other teams, but it's almost like, oh, this is how we're supposed to play. No, it's not how we're supposed to play. And that's something that I'm going to bear down on.
So it still seems like Pedro Grifol is still figuring out the way to manage properly. And again, I thought the thing that stuck out the most to me was the comments that sounded very similar to Tony La Russa, right? Like, hey, if a guy can't give me 100%, we're still going to have him go out there and play 80% or 60%. Pedro saying, I'd rather have the bats over the legs. But even him, he's saying he never has dealt with this. Like, guys saying that they're nicked up or that they have a certain injury that's nagging them, right? Like, he's never experienced this to this level. So when we look at Gene Watson, when we look at Brian Bannister, when we look at Josh Barfield, what they are brought in here to do is not fix Eloy Jimenez, because I think that's more on Chris Johnson and more on the major league staff that's there to work with him and tweak his swing. Same with Vaughn and Benintendi. That's Mike Tozar's job. What their job is, Watson, obviously Bannister for pitching, and Barfield, is to make sure that 40-man roster is able to give a contribution at any point. right? That if Zach Remillard needs to play, like Zach Remillard is going to be put in a spot to succeed or at least help this club. And maybe that's only in, extreme injury situations, but that's why you need a 40-man on a roster. So I think Pedro really did seem to just really face a lot in his first year.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I don't like first-year managers, because you're learning on the job, and you'll learn a lot of things, especially with this White Sox team. I'm sure with the Royals he's had injuries, but he hasn't had the magnitude and how badly the White Sox have been injured and how much it cost them in wins and losses, because as we were talking about earlier, you have injuries on every MLB team, but other teams can weather the storm with their depth, and the White Sox just had very little depth to come up and do some damage. So, yeah, he's probably flabbergasted on, wow, this was a lot. This is way more than I thought it was. But I'm prepared for it now. I'm going into the offseason understanding that that's what's going to be expected. And so next year I can be better prepared and better suited to replace the people and have the answers a little bit quicker than I had this year. So I'm glad he got the whole first year out and he learned from his mistakes, hopefully. So next year can be much better, because there were a couple of missteps there. And like I said, 101 losses not on Pedro. We didn't help it, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, as sick and tired of fans are about hearing about this, it remains ridiculous how injured the White Sox have been over the last 3 seasons. And, I think you had a lot more this year that was not guys missing 3 months at a time like there were in years past, but it was a lot of walking wounded, right? I mean, was Eloy Jimenez good? Was Andrew Benintendi good? Was Yohan Moncada good? Was Tim Anderson good? No, they were hurt and playing hurt basically all year. So you go to their baseball reference page and you see the games played. Yeah, they're better than they've been in the years past. But what kind of player were you getting? And I mean, Benintendi, for example. I mean, the guy was just a shell of himself. I mean, TA for most of the year, a shell of himself. Like, these are guys who were physically affected to the point where they could not play the way they wanted to play the game. And when you have enough of them, I just rattled off 4 names right there, the White Sox as a team should not be expected to compete as they would when those guys are healthy. And I think fans hear that as an explanation to again, quote Tony La Russa, right? They hear it as it's offered as an explanation, and they hear it as an excuse. And you know what? That's fine. You're welcome to think that way. But at the same time, you have to realize that this is just ridiculous. It's been ridiculous how hurt the most important players on this team have been year in and year out for the last 4 seasons. And I can't sit here and tell you that it's going to change. I can't do that. But I can tell you that if you're looking for the main reason why that rebuild never got off the ground, that's why. That is the number one reason right there.
Well, and 2, like, I get people getting mad and thinking it's excuse. My issue is just there hasn't been a solution. It's been a problem each and every year. It's been a consistent issue, and there just hasn't been a fix to it. So, like, I just like to see the problem get fixed. Like, I don't know if it's an excuse, but you got a springy faucet or whatever. You got a leaky pipe. You go in and fix the pipe. You don't hope it gets better.
Well, that's what they did with Michael Kopech's cyst. Snipped it off.
They went in and got it. Oh, sorry, man. All right. Great job, though, this year, Vinny. I know the Guaranteed Rate Field staff has made a very lovely home for you in that media press box there. Hopefully they just name it the Vinnie Duber press box at this point. Appreciate your work all season long. Thank you for getting all those videos with the interviews. I mean, honestly, from August to September, there was just so much happening, and you were always on top of it, sending in Rick Hahn, Chris Getz. So we want to thank you for your work. Go check out Vinny's latest article at allchgo.com. Follow him at Vinnie Duber. He's still going to be here. He's going to be here at 3:30 tomorrow, so you won't miss Vinny. We're going to be here all offseason for you as well, White Sox fans. So we'll be here tomorrow at 3:30 to talk to you about what's next. That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him at ActonWall23. We will also have a 30-plus interview, the full interview with Pedro and Vinny tomorrow. Thank you to Stephen Nicholas, who has produced not all, but mostly all of these post games as well. Does a fantastic job. We wouldn't be on air right now if it wasn't Stephen Nicholas.
He's leaving us to do hockey things.
Mr.
Now.
Baseball.
We're gonna miss you, Steven.
I'm Mr. Baseball. I'm Mr. Hockey.
Well, that's Gordie Howe. So I don't know if you.
Do you get mad when they don't skate hard, Steven? When they don't take a shift correctly?
Can you tell?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. No.
Exactly. So, but you could tell when people are running or not. They're just slow. And I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me at Sean_W_Anderson. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. And finally, too, if you are a diehard, I'll put a message in the chat. But if you are a diehard, go to the CHGO lounge. Ask us any questions. Tomorrow's a Mailbag Monday, so we'll bring in the Pedro interview to you, and we'll have mailbag questions to answer. So if you got anything for the offseason, send it in, and we'll have that show tomorrow. For Vinnie Duber, Herb Lawrence, Stephen Nicholas, I'm Sean Anderson. Talk to you tomorrow at 3:30. Goodbye.